Welcome to Art V's Summer Shorts, where we take a quick look back at some of our artist interviews from 2020. Now, you're also working closely with Artists for Kids. Can you tell us a bit about that?
This is the Artists for Kids culture group who raise over $100,000 a year to give kids who can't afford it art experiences. Yeah. And the other half of this pillowcase is going in an online exhibition, 25th of November, AKC, Artists for Kids Culture auction.
Oh, good on you. Great stuff. Gee, that's great. You do facilitating with the Port Phillip sessions as well. Good on you for giving back. We would love to hear it when artists are doing that. It's what makes it all worthwhile, and people learn all the time from people like yourself.
Thanks.
Good on you. You have been a photographer for, well, how long?
Well, recently.
Yeah.
And it's 2.5 years. I never had a look. I've never shot film, for example. So all my life, I looked down on photography. I thought it was too easy.
Right.
So I went through. I went to wonderful places. I lived in different places, but I never had a camera. So it won't be true to say my first camera was 2.5 years ago. But I started suddenly realizing what photography was about 2.5 years ago when I got my full-frame camera. Before then, I might have had a camera here and there because of the restaurants, particularly doing the music, shooting the musicians, the gigs and all that. Yeah. I was more interested in filming. But film is, you guys know, because a lot of people and cooperation. I'm not very cooperative and a lot of setup. But photography, I can just
work on your own.
Work on my own. But it really, Tony, it really surprised me. I don't know what happened. I think it was a particular phase in my life. Yeah. I had just moved out from St. Kilda to a little apartment in the city. And I got my first camera with the idea of maybe, actually not for photography. I again got it for films. But suddenly I understood the difference. The photo is like a distillation of the instant, of whatever is happening within that instant. Say a film, because I've been thinking about this, like a Kubrick film, for example, Barry Lyndon is often mentioned. It's a series of beautiful, beautiful photographs, thousands of them. I mean, there may be lots of other movies like that. So what's the difference? It's in the act. It's actually the act. The pleasure of photography is just choosing the moment, choosing what you're looking at, and one click.
It's capturing the moment in time.
And you can have so much in that.
Yeah.
It's the end result. It's not talking about the end result, because you can, extrapolate a frame from a film as well. Yeah. It's the pleasure in actually choosing the single frame.
Yeah.
There's different things. So there's my personal practice. Yep. It's Titane Laurent artist, so titanelaurent.com. And then there is the gallery. It's, of course, laurentgallery.com, and everything that has to do with the gallery and other artists will be through the gallery.
Yep.
And then I just created a new event, which is More Than Art, Melbourne, and I'm creating a fortnightly video, and I'm mixing art and spirituality, because there's so many artists that have vision and dream, but they're too chicken to step to that dream. So my objective now is to help people to really follow their dream, because time is ticking and the fulfillment comes from, following our dreams and our passion. So I think I will more develop the gallery towards community and help artists to find who they are as an artist, than continue doing something more commercial. There will always be exhibition because that sustain my studio, but I want to make more like a difference in the community instead of being a curator.
Sure.
It's not fun.
But at least that's the great thing. You're supporting artists. And you also experienced a tsunami which influenced your work. Can you give us a bit of info on that?
Right. I was in the 2004 tsunami, that was off the coast of Thailand. And I think for me, to not fear the sea or not fear the oceans, but to have a healthy respect for it, I had to create an artwork based off it. So I did a whole series of works entitled Seas, Ships, and Situations. And it really documented people trafficking and refugees on boats and disasters at sea and wars and conquering, and how the sea has known all of this history throughout millenniums. You know, it's been around and a constant, yet man's desire to overtake it, to conquer it, also to be subdued by it. You know, the sea continues to gather all this information, but it still remains the same. And so for me, I needed to understand that the tsunami was just a blip in the history of events, and I just happened to participate in that. So the seas, ships, and situations helped me to really understand that experience a bit more.
Well, your art has taken you, well, around the globe, because you have had residencies and exhibitions in London, Australia, China, and also in Egypt. What was that like?
Well, again, the Egypt that we know now was very different from the Egypt back in the late 90s. So I put that in context that we didn't have a fear of the Middle East as we do now. It wasn't the enemy. It wasn't the thing to be afraid of. It was a very welcoming, I guess you would say more like Laurence of Olivier days, if I can say that, where it was a magical, adventurous place. And so while I was there, I exhibited in some of the most beautiful places I had ever exhibited in. Because the desert just kind of softened and condensed the environment, so it was almost mummified, if I can use that example.
Yeah, I would imagine that would. I'm sorry to interject. I would imagine that just being in Egypt, involved with it, with the cultural history, wow, you know, it would have to affect, especially, you know, your moods, everything, especially with the creativity in performing with the art. But it's a shame you couldn't be in Egypt or in Alexandria in the mid-50s, because every Hollywood star that was there when it was the Pearl of the Nile.
Yeah, I missed that opportunity.
We've got lots to do in 2021, but we can't do it without artists. So get your artwork, images, and any videos you've got ready. Send us the links to your websites and social media pages, and we'll get back to you with the application form explaining just how easy it is to get involved and secure your interview for 2021.
Just think that the lockdown experience for me inspires me to walk in parks, and I plan ahead. I believe I had the feeling that restriction will be softer. I plan ahead that I want to go for a long walk in nature, to do a watercolor painting, to connect more, to have more idea for also virtual reality.
Yeah.
And actually on Friday I'm moving to Mansfield, I already moved my address. So I moved all my stuff.
Yep.
I'm saying goodbye to Melbourne for a while, or for a long time. And I want to work from there onto probably the border of New South Wales. Maybe do a fundraising for saving koalas.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm doing arts, fundraising. And I'm going to film myself, because it's an experience by myself, solo journey. So it's going to be a little documentary, the outcome for next year. While I'm working, like I said, I love the idea of being alone and painting landscapes of Australia. I want to do that maybe all around Australia if I get more inspired.
Sure.
But for next year, I want to probably, depending on the restriction, end up in Byron Bay and do an exhibition at the library there of all the watercolors.
Yeah.
Those watercolor materials that I have, I'm going to animate it for the next journey of Voice of the Earth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I saw another surprise where I'm just negotiating with a partner. I'm going to make a headset with my work printed around.
Yep.
And beautiful quotes.
Yeah.
So you're going to have an art piece in your
hand.
And accessible, no more than $30 or $40 maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But 10% of everyone who buy this with environmental friendly material, they will decompose if you throw those headset. 10% I want to donate it to planting trees.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's all around. Yeah.
Good man. Well, actually, you had me too when you wanted to raise awareness and some funds for the koalas, because let's put it this way, at the beginning of 2020, with the bushfires, they could use a break. That they'll need our help as well. There's no doubt about that, because we nearly wiped them out, which is a bit ridiculous.
Yes.
Anyway, that sounds terrific. So we'll make sure that everyone who hasn't seen
Voice of the Earth,
that's the one, The Voice of the Earth, brilliant clip. It's probably coming up after this, so everyone can stay tuned and have a look.
Hola, mi gente. How everyone is coping in this isolation situation? I hope you're okay. I'm sending you some good creative vibe from my cave studio. Finally, I just finished my new public art project online, Voice of the Earth 360 VR experience, which I developed during this long lockdown while I was facing some emotional challenges. I was able to create this new VR piece with the general support of City of Melbourne COVID-19 art grants. So thank you so much, City of Melbourne, and all the talented collaborators in this piece. This time I used Alexander Gardens location, which is opposite to the art center in Melbourne CBD. You can enjoy Voice of the Earth in 3 different formats. In your computer screen, by moving and exploring the 360 animation with your mouse. On your phone, by either moving around your hand or with your finger touching the phone screen.
It's so amazing. It's like a dream.
Wow. It's
Waterfall, beautiful.
That was unbelievable. I'm shocked.
If you don't have one of these pictorial headset, maybe as a friend if they have one, you can borrow. Thank you so much. Enjoy Voice of the Earth.
I had a look at your information available online and went straight to your artist statement, and it revealed immediately that you started painting in oil paints, of all things, at the age of 11. What brought that on?
A theft brought that on.
Oh.
I stole my sister's school watercolour paints because I was never given any. Some racehorses, and was so impressed he went out and bought me Winsor & Newton oil paint. So I was very, very excited, but not for long, because my parents lined me up and said, you know, don't get too excited. This is just a hobby, and you do that out in the shed. You're going to study and be a doctor, and painting can be your hobby. And it was for a while. Yeah.
You also spent some time, was it in South America?
I did later on, yes. I lived there for about 3 years in the northeast of Brazil. Just ended up going there, didn't plan that. I was traveling. I was always, all I wanted to do when I was a kid was paint and travel. And so I did that. I did study. I didn't study medicine like my parents wanted me to. I chose nursing because it was 4 years, not 6 or 10. And then I studied myotherapy as well. In between all those years of study and working, I would travel every year and paint. And this one particular trip that I went on with a friend of mine was to South America, and very long story, but I ended up living there. Yeah. And basically that was really the first time I exhibited at age 13 and 14, had very good opportunities to exhibit as long as I kept it low profile and didn't interfere with my studies. But once I was in Brazil, life took me in that direction as an exhibiting artist, and I didn't want to go back after that. I'd found that was really how I wanted to live. So,
And was it in South America where you was studied or captured oceans and figures?
Oh, no, I started, I'd been drawing since I was tiny. Drawing girls first, because that's what's available to me on either side of me in the class. I'd finish my work and then sit there drawing horses, drawing, riding around the town. I grew up in a small town, and the chemistry teacher asked me to go tree drawing, so we rode around drawing trees. So I did a lot of drawing before I even got to work with paints at age 11. And so the ocean, I didn't get to see the ocean until I was 9, and I didn't get to paint it, I think, until I was about 14, 15, had another holiday to the ocean. So I'd kind of painted the ocean on and off and figures on and off. It wasn't until I came back from Brazil that I started my the Melbourne series. I'd been visiting. I wasn't intending to come back and live in Australia. I was visiting with a friend who didn't speak any English, and she'd travelled and lived in Europe, and she wanted to come to Australia with me because she didn't have the language skills. And we were standing on that little footbridge that goes from Flinders Street Station across to South Bank, and we were looking at this. And she'd lived in Paris, and she said to me, "Oh my God, Jennifer, I don't know what you want to live in that little stupid village in Brazil for. This is amazing. It's like Paris. This is such a beautiful city." A lot of development had happened while I'd been away, and it actually had become really beautiful around the river, and Docklands was beginning to be a very, very scenic and beautiful place as well. So that's kind of where the conceptualization of the Melbourne series began. But I continued to paint figures and the ocean.
Good. Now, back in late mid-80s, 1985, you were involved with Indigenous art then.
That's right. Well, it was the first job I had in the field of working with Indigenous artists, and it was running the Aboriginal Artists Gallery in Liverpool Street in the city, which at that time was the only Indigenous art gallery, with the exception of, I think, the Methodist missionaries had a shop in the city as well, which had which saw artefacts and objects from
Yeah.
Arnhem Land.
Yeah, I do remember seeing, because quite a few Aboriginal art galleries popped up. I think it was late 80s, early 90s, was it?
Late 80s, early 90s. It wasn't very popular. We found we were sort of hidden away down a laneway, but people who came to us were deliberately trying to find us. Obviously, a lot of international people came. We found that the hotels would direct them to us, which was great, but it was a shamefully quiet time in terms of the general population finding us or being interested in it until about, I suppose, 1988, the bicentennial. There was a lot more attention on Indigenous culture.
Yeah. Now, since that time, though, you've been Sydney, Melbourne predominantly, and you've handled heaps of exhibitions and well,
countless. Can't even tell you how many, but yes, I had a gallery in Sydney for 3 years with Gabriella Roy, and then relocated back to Melbourne and operated out of Caulfield North as a private gallery initially, but then it became obvious that people felt uncomfortable with that sort of idea of coming into my house and then turning right into a gallery space. So we actually rebuilt the gallery, a beautiful architect design gallery with its own entrance, which was also great, but we were still off grid. So eventually, when we sold that property, the idea was to try and go more high vis, and I think, we're on St Kilda Road, with a window on the street, which most people seem to enjoy in the evening. We've got it lit up like a beacon. So it's been an interesting exercise.
I will be back in 2021. We have just been confirmed with our exhibition by the NGV that we can participate. It's again a group exhibition, and it will be, this time it will be with a friend of mine, Colin Whitehead, who has a furniture business himself. So he's a designer, but he's also a furniture maker. And we also decided in the last year, and specifically this year, to work together. And we already worked on a few products. And the first product that we launched together, which is a funky coffee table with the name Symbiont, has already received 2 awards from Decor and Design's Vivid exhibition, or Vivid Awards. And it's also competing tomorrow at the Design Files Awards in the furniture category to be hopefully one of the best, or if not the best. So that would be really good. And the other 2 people who will contribute to that exhibition next year will be Christina Popovici and Valentin Tink. So it's going to be called After Nero, the Roman Emperor, and it will be interesting.
Well, it should be interesting.
Yeah.
What's the month, the timing for it?
It is, I think it's from the 26th of March, if I'm not mistaken. It will be on for a week and a half.
2021.
And yeah, it's always a great show to just see what Melbourne has to offer in terms of design and art, because Melbourne Design Week is curated by the NGV, so they have a pretty big focus on arts in general. So they like it when art meets design, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah.
Well, that's the show for this week. We'll see you next week with another special episode of Art V's Summer Shorts. On behalf of the team at Art V, Studio E Media and Alex Theatres, we just want to say have a very safe and happy festive season.